Welcome to the Purpose Chasers podcast, where those who refuse to let odds or naysayers stand in their way come to chase and catch their true calling. I'm your host, Mark Crandall. In each episode, we shine a spotlight on artists and musicians who dare to dream bigger. You'll hear the real-world tactical moves these Purpose Chasers have taken to carve out their legacies, and I'll break down the marketing strategies you can swipe and implement today. Let's dive in and start chasing our purpose. Don't forget to leave a follow on Spotify or wherever you stream from. Let's dive into this episode. Welcome back, everyone, to this episode of the Purpose Chasers podcast. I am pumped today to have Phoebe Mroczek. Did I pronounce it right?
You did. You nailed it.
I asked her yesterday. I'm like, how the hell do you pronounce your last name? I hadn't asked her. We've literally been in meetings and meetups and talking to each other constantly over the last 3 weeks. And people are like, Phoebe who? I'm like, I don't know how to. I think Russian. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Swedish, maybe.
It's like consonant salad. That's how I describe it. I have had so many people be like, can I buy a vowel? I'm like, yes, this is my life. But you got it. You nailed it. And I felt like our friendship was too far gone, right, for you to really ask. So I appreciate you bringing it back in and getting it right.
She's like, bro with an M, check. I was like, okay, I can do that. Bro, check.
There you go. You got it.
So to give the Purpose Chasers audience some backstory, I met Phoebe at a podcasting event, at the airing of the show a month ago. And I was drawn to her immediately. As my audience knows, as y'all know, like I have heart connections with various humans on this earth. And she was an individual that my intuition, my heart, whatever you want to call it, immediately guided me towards. And it's funny too, because there were like probably 4 individuals at this event. They were like, oh my God, you need to meet Phoebe. She gets so many downloads on her podcast. Their podcast is like blowing up. You need to get on her podcast. You need to get on her podcast. And I don't give a fuck about getting on her podcast, even though we literally just did my interview on her podcast. But Phoebe is an epic human being, and I am just beyond excited to get this conversation going. She's not even fully aware of the power that she possesses as a human being. So her podcast is the Unbecoming podcast, and she believes that individuals to get to purpose chasing status need to unbecome, or literally need to unravel all that they think that they are so that they can truly find out who they are. And in our first conversation, how long did our first convo last?
Well, which one? The one where you're like, I need to know you.
It's just continuing, and it's continued. And, I'm going to share something with y'all at the end of this episode that Phoebe and I have decided to, everyone used to tell, people tell me that if you enter a partnership, it's literally like a marriage. So you really need to like the person. So Phoebe and I are entering into a marriage, and we're going to share that with you at the end of the show. And my wife blessed it, which means she deems it worthy. So I had to bring her over. I had to bring Phoebe over to the house to meet her, to meet my wife. So my wife's intuition could get a read on her, and she passed. So Phoebe, welcome to the Purpose Chasers podcast. So grateful to have you here. I want to jump right into it. What point in your life, what happened, where were you when you hit the place where you're like, which I call the aha moment, or the Purpose Chasers contemplation, right? It's like the question is generally, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Right? And then you go from there. Give us some backstory.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I just want to say I'm so excited to be here. So thank you for having me. And it's been such a pleasure getting to know you and your wife and all the exciting things that you're up to. So thank you for having me. So I'll give you a little bit of backstory. I grew up in a very competitive household. I'm one of 6 kids. So the only way that I knew to stand out and to gain the love and attention from my family and my parents more specifically was to carve out a role that I wasn't sure, the kind of early years, I wasn't sure what that looked like. And then as I got older, I realized that the way for me to do that was really in athletics, and I could excel in athletics. So I put all my time and attention, my focus on being a great athlete. And so my goal from the time I was 5 years old was to be a professional soccer player. And through a series of, just a lot of work, I arrived at the UNCW, UNC Wilmington campus as a Division I college soccer player, which was amazing. And I had achieved all of the things that I had wanted to achieve up until that point. And my freshman year of college was just one thing after the next. And the most significant moment for me was my dad passing away really suddenly. And we kind of knew he was sick, but we heard he had about 12 months to 18 months to live, and he died about 6 weeks later. And so that just rocked my world. My dad and I were super, super close. The story is that my mom didn't want any more kids, and my dad was like, just one more, she'll be my baby, and all this, and that was me. And so I had such a close relationship with him, and to go through that when I felt like I was on top of the world, and just to get knocked at the knees in that moment was really, really hard. And so what I realized at that time was that, it shattered everything that I knew to be true up until that point, right? That my family was perfect, that everybody was invincible, everyone I loved and care about would always be around. And so that moment forced me to really get honest about who am I, what is actually going on, and that tomorrow is not promised for anybody. So the decision I made in that moment was do what you want and do it now. And so from there, I ended up quitting soccer. We can go into what happened, but that was the moment for me where everything changed.
Well, I want to go into it, but I think there's a piece here that I really want to identify. And I always share this, when guests come on the podcast and they share their stories. And so I always give a disclaimer to my audience that you don't need to have, there doesn't need to be a passing or a traumatic moment in your life for you to have the what am I doing with my life moment, right? You can have that right now in your car, on your way to work, or at your house, wherever you're listening to this recording. You can have that moment, and it starts with a contemplation. What am I doing with my life? If I passed today, would I be fulfilled? So yeah, I want you to jump into it, Phoebe. So you went from that moment, from quitting soccer, to what did you do? How did you find out what you were on this earth to do?
Well, so shortly after that, my whole family it was just a really weird situation. I don't think I've ever really talked about it publicly, but it was just a really weird moment for our family to be like, nope, we don't. And I remember so clearly, for example, at my dad's wake, my whole high school class walked in. It was such an emotional moment for me to see that people really cared about me, that they came back from college to actually support me in what was happening. And I just welled up with tears, and a family member came up behind me and pinched the back of my arm and said, "We don't cry in this family." And everything shut down. And I remember my boyfriend at the time coming over, and he just was like, what did she just say to you? Because everything just changed in your demeanor, and, my eyes just dried up, and I was fine. And so it was this constant, or just this padding of, I don't actually want to talk about what's going on truly with me. So I just started to, a year later, I quit soccer, which was the first real adult decision that I had to make. And it was really hard. Everyone was like, oh my God, what's going on? Phoebe's having a mental breakdown. And I was like, nope, I'm good. But I just knew that I needed to do more, and that my life was not just to be being a soccer player was great, but I also was like, I want to see the world, and I want to do all the things that I want to do. My dad set out, he kept saying he wanted to do this Alaskan cruise, and he died a year before he got to do it. So that, to me, I get chills just even thinking about that, because it's such a good reminder for me that it doesn't, as you alluded to, you don't need catastrophe to change your life. And so I ended up studying abroad 3 times. I changed my major 7 times because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, and I wanted to like get it right and perfect and whatever. And the whole time I was just collecting these experiences, because what I was doing was I was basically padding my heart, right? So I knew that if somebody asked me how I was, I had 27 experiences to choose from, right? I could be like, oh, well, I just went swimming with great white sharks. Let's talk about that. Let's distract and deflect away from what's really happening here. And then I waited about 10 years until actually dealing with it. And I literally cried for about 2 weeks. And I remember having my friends be like, oh my God, what's going on? Phoebe is like, she's leaking, right? Like my brain was just leaking, and I couldn't figure out a way to stop it, because what I knew up until that point was I was always fine. I was the strong one. And so I had this moment where I was able to see that not everything was fine and perfect, right? And that my life wasn't always going to go a certain way, but all I knew to be true was that I had to do what was right and what was best for me. And that's what started my unbecoming process, through a series of different circumstances. That's kind of where it all started.
It's, when you talk about how, your father not fulfilling on the one thing that he had been talking about his whole life, like it really, maybe not his whole life, but for years, like it really moves me, because so many individuals, and I share it kind of obsessively with my audience, and that is, procrastination is nothing more than the delusion that tomorrow's promised. And so many individuals don't take actions on the things that they're out to fulfill on in life, because we put it off till tomorrow. And the reality of it is, even in your story, in your past experiences, like you don't know that tomorrow's promised. Like it could literally end today. Right. And I'm very often present to that. So what did you get out in the world to do? Like, what did you shoot off like a rocket? Did you hit a bunch of limiting beliefs? What did that look like for you?
Well, once I started just kind of unraveling, up until that point, I had been overseas for about 6 years at that point. And so I moved to Taiwan, then got a job in China, lived in China for 3 years, and then was all around Europe and the UK. And it was in the moment in the UK that I decided to go on this amazing motorcycle trip with a friend of mine. And so we went across Europe on a motorcycle. And in those moments, that was the first time that I had really shut my brain off. Because when you're not connected to your phone and you don't have Facebook and, audiobooks, and I didn't have service. So I just was alone in that helmet, but with myself and my own thoughts. And so what I realized was, what do I really love to do? I love to create meaningful connections. I love to create experiences for people. My love language, 2 things are like theme parties, and surprises. And like, how do I create that for other people? So I just started, and also communication. Like I love to communicate and I love to help other people communicate. But what I realized was that nobody can communicate in an authentic, real way if they don't actually know who they are. And all of these things that I'd been reading about online with building a business, and at that time I was starting a travel blog, which was called Short Road to Happy, and which is very ironic because because it wasn't that happy of an experience. It was, an up and down of emotions that whole trip. But what I realized was that all the things I was reading, right? It's like, you've just got to put out the product and just do the thing. And here's the strategy. And, I was becoming a marketing strategist, a Facebook ad. I had a marketing agency, all of this stuff on the side that I was building for nothing, for no other reason than to fulfill on somebody else's dream and what was supposed to happen. I was like, wait a minute. Why my whole life, I feel like, had been dictated up until that point, of, when my dad passed away, it was like, well, that's my job, is I'm a soccer player. This is what I do. Nobody said that to me. That was something I took on. And then at this point, it was like another turning point for me where I was like, wait a minute, I'm building a business I don't even want. I'm unhappy in somewhere that I'm supposed to be, I'm preaching about and I'm talking about and I'm speaking about, and that's just not me. but I had taken on everybody else's judgments and everybody else's roles and their expectations. And so, yeah, it was like all of these limiting beliefs of like, well, who are you to do this? Yeah, you're great. And you've had this like really easy life. That was a big story of mine, was I don't have a rags to riches story. And I don't have this story of, at that time I had a friend who had just had a leg amputated, and I was like, well, who am I to talk about real struggle when I've got all my limbs, I'm successful, like I've achieved a certain level where I should be okay with where I am right now. And I couldn't hide the fact that I wasn't okay with that. And I hadn't actually dealt with my feelings and my thoughts and what I actually wanted to create. So that trip was a huge turning point for me to, metaphorically, basically, like, so I was stalling out, and then to push through and to get to the other side of that, of like, what do I actually want? And what I really want is just to create meaningful connections to help people go through the process that I've gone through of unraveling. And I do think it's a practice, right? It's not a one and done type situation. It is, you've got to unravel who you are before you ever figure out why you're doing anything or how you're doing it or what you're selling. So I work primarily with entrepreneurs. So that's relevant in that situation. But regardless, right? It's, why are you doing something? What are you doing? That all comes back to who you are.
It's so amazing. Just absolutely amazing. And in the piece of it, and I think I shared this with you. So I went to ClickFunnels Funnel Hacker Live conference, and like I've used ClickFunnels for my landing pages and blah, 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 blah. And I followed Russell and, the whole community. And as I'm at this event, I just had like a smack in the face. And I started asking people why they were doing what they were doing. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And I kept getting no answers. No answers. So let me get this straight. You all just want to get up on stage to say that you made $1 million. And I had this awakening, and I was like, this is not my community. Like, it's really not my community. Like, who gives a shit about making $1 million? Like, yeah, who doesn't want to make $1 million? Who doesn't want to make multiple millions of dollars, right? It's like, it's okay to want to make millions of dollars, but it can't be my driving force. It doesn't bring fulfillment to chase dollars. So what was the process for you getting started into the transformational work of Unbecoming?
Well, so before I answer that question, because it's a great question, I do want to say one quick thing is I had a similar situation happen, right? So I was 29 and a half. And so it was 6 months until I turned 30. And I remember just having a total meltdown. Like, I'm not going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. And I remember that. If I think hard enough, I can still feel that feeling of like just such disappointment. And this is what I've said since I was, literally like 10 years old. I would brag to all my friends, well, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. And that was always like the insult to them. Well, yeah, I'm going to be a millionaire, and then to get there and realize that I hadn't achieved that was really hard. And I remember I had a great friend at the time who just could not have been put in a better place for me at that moment. And he just said to me, he's like, how would our lives change if you were a millionaire? And I just had never thought about that. And it was more of a status thing than it was actually even thinking about what that meant. And so I was like, well, I'd fly first class. And he was like, great. What else? Maybe I'd buy some houses. I don't know. And he's like, right. Well, you're not even clear on what you would do with that. You'd still be wearing the same $14 ripped jeans that you're wearing from Target, and that's just my living in China, I think, helped with that, just bargaining and looking for discounts. But, that is who I am. And so I just realized it was that unlocking of the financial piece with who I am. And it actually doesn't matter how much money I have as long as I'm myself. And so to answer your question about just what that process looked like, I just dove headfirst. I've always been a very curious person. I love to learn. And so for me, it was, how do I just start? I just dive. When I do anything, I'm 2 feet in. That's the kind of person I am. So I enlisted and enrolled in several different transformational programs. I got a coach immediately. I got a mastermind. And I just joined all of the things and just started to see the similarities. And I'm somebody who I reverse engineer everything. I'm quite I'm a very intuitive person, but I also have that, the masculine side of me that is, very calculated might be the wrong word, but just I'm very logical and practical. And so to have that and to look at what everyone else was doing and also who people were aligning to and why and what was the reason behind it. And I gave myself permission to start at ground zero and to dig my way down there. And I think for me, the fear was that if I go back there, and a lot of it had to do with healing my dad, just really processing it because I hadn't, and that had been, 12 years later. Really, I started that process about 10 years after my dad passed away. But I was fearful that if I went back to that place, that I wouldn't be able to get out. And my name means sunshine. And I'm like a happy person. If you ask anybody, like, oh, Phoebe, she's so positive and whatever. And so to go completely against that and to be okay not being the happy person and to be okay really dealing with the stuff that I needed to deal with and talking to the people that were able to provide some sort of healing and also just an open space and allowing myself to be vulnerable and allowing myself to show up in whatever form that needed to take was terrifying because I was always the one, and I'm sure your listeners can relate to this, and I know you can as well, but I'm always the strong one. I'm the one who's strong for everybody else. And so the moment people saw me cry or me start to emote a little bit or to kind of break down, it caused chaos in my friendships and in my relationships, and no one really knew how to do it or how to deal with it, I guess you could say. And so I think permission was probably the first thing, was that I don't love me any less for, crying on the bathroom floor as I do when I'm rocking it on stage. It doesn't matter to me. It's all the same and it's all versions of me. And I think that was the first thing that I had to just get rid of, that judgment, right? The judgment of who am I if I'm not this happy, positive person that's crushing it in business and traveling the world and, doing all these things. Well, the me of today isn't that person. And I'm all the same person. So it's this kind of conflicting feelings and thought patterns and stuff that I had to just kind of become familiar with, but get to know myself. And one last thing, this is a very long-winded answer, I'm sorry. But the other thing I was going to say is I remember having a pretty significant breakup in my life. And I will never forget being in Berlin. I lived in Berlin for about 2 years and going out on the street after we had broken up and saying, what do I want to eat today? And I just burst out crying. And I said, I don't even know what I want to eat today. I know what he wants to eat. I don't know what I want to eat. And I just walked back up to my apartment and I just sat in my apartment and cried. And that was ground zero for me. That was like, I don't even know what I want to eat, the most basic of choices. And so from there, it was like, just when you're down, you can't go any lower. So I tried and I got as low as I could and then just started to build up from there.
And I got a rebuttal. So I was super long-winded on the episode of Unbecoming where she interviewed me. I mean, she asked me like 3-word questions, and I just like went on. And she started prefacing all the questions she was asking me with, "We have to end soon." So you're welcome to go long-winded.
Thank you.
So I just have to create something for the listeners and I guess for myself in this interview. Is I don't know you as the individual who doesn't know what she wants to eat. Like, you, to me, are a very, very strong woman who's very secure in herself, which is displayed through authentic communication. When did you find your voice, Phoebe? Because I think I was so aligned with you due to how direct your communication was.
Totally. I mean, even just as you say that, I'm like, yeah, a lot of people don't know me as that, right? Because that was happening behind the scenes of so much. And so much, behind a website that made me look amazing. And I was doing great things in business, right? It was just this crumbling behind the scenes. And I've always been a great communicator, I think, in terms of my write. Like, I love to write. I've always loved to write. I love to speak, clearly, because I'm very long-winded. However, for me, it was, I started a project. I was kind of partnering on a project for a couple years, and just realized that I knew how, and as a marketing person, as a copywriter, I could, or I used to say all the time that I would pride myself on being a chameleon, that I could blend into any situation that people would put me into. And that bled over into copywriting, right? Where you have to actually, I think it's the empathy that I have, where I could just step right into your shoes and write you a sales page, and I can write your email sequence. And so I can embody who you are and write for you. Where the problem comes in was where those started to be conflicting, and I started to lose who I was, and I could write strategically any kind of copy for a website, but I didn't quite know where they started or where they ended and I began. And so it was this unraveling process, but also in that was me taking action and me just writing the things and starting my show. Was, I mean, the first 10 episodes of season 1, I was very open about the fact that I didn't know if I had anything to say that was worthwhile. And I mean, that just like breaks my heart to even like say that, because I can look at that human and that woman and just see how scared I was. And to say that I didn't know if I had anything worthwhile to say, that is just horrendous to me. But I do, I have so much love for that woman who was so scared. And through a series of just a lot of transformation, a lot of conversation with myself and with others, and really leaning heavily on my intuition and my own spiritual development, that has propelled me into finding my voice. And, because a lot of people say you don't find your voice, you always have one. And I do think that I personally, I lost track of that. I lost touch with who that was. And then I just started to gain this momentum and talk to the right people. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just so tired of assuming everybody else's presence and assuming everybody else, that everyone else wants what I want. And that's just not true. So I just started to like throw off everybody. I was like a cord cutting for the masses. And I just realized how strong I could be, and just to speak into that and to just become that. Right. So once, I think, the unraveling, the unbecoming process, and then just starting to like step up and into who I know I am. And that was never in question for me. I always known I was going to change the world or change something, change people's lives. And so to actually get to that place where now I have the microphone, now I get to talk about what I want to talk about. And the feedback, for podcasts, the feedback loop is not often great. Right? You're speaking into the abyss of, iTunes. And then all of a sudden I start getting people writing to me and saying, God, I've never had anyone articulate it the way that you have. I'm like, wow. So there's not, one of my good friends, Jada Selner, she says that there are no unique messages, just unique messengers. And that has been probably one of my guiding forces, is like, you know what, if you can see the path, it's not your path. I love that by Joseph Campbell. And then Jada's like, I'm just a unique messenger to deliver a message that we all need to hear. And I'm going to resonate with some people. And I just stopped giving a shit about the people who don't resonate with my message. And that's cool. Go find someone who does. But I just know that I've always wanted a role model. And so rather than continuing the search to find a million other role models, I'm just going to become the person that I wish I had 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. And so that for me has been, kind of this rising of myself and my power, stepping into all of that, finding my voice. And so that's, has now transformed into this platform that I've created that's really exciting and that feels fully me, which I've never felt more me than I do right now in this moment.
You are so you. And you are also, I can't even imagine who you were in the past, but you're a woman who could talk forever. And it's amazing. Like, the things that you say are so empowering. So even though I'm a coach and a therapist, and I work with all these individuals that have these limiting beliefs, and they're, seeking empowerment to break free from them. I just can't see you having any. And I know that I will soon see you have some. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that. And also really, really excited for what you and I are getting our hands into. And for my Purpose Chasers audience, that I've been talking about launching the Purpose Chasers Academy, which is a 6-week coaching program, for months now. I think I announced it like in April that I'm about to launch this. And I kept staying in a pause. And what kept coming to me was that I was not ready. And it kept coming to me that there was a partner that was going to be presented to me. And I'm like, well, I've tried partnering before in my business and it didn't work. I worked harder than they did, and da, 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 da. And then I met Phoebe, and she shared with me her vision. And I was like stopped in my tracks as I shared with her my vision and the community that I was out to create and the impact that I was out to cause in the world. And so, drum roll, please. That's me pounding on my desk, which is probably going to drive Phoebe nuts. Silence on the set, podcaster. Phoebe, how are you feeling about what we're about to announce to the Purpose Chasers audience?
I mean, giddy. I think I'm just, I mean, as you know, I'm a person, a woman of many words. And it's hard really for me to put into words what it is that what we're creating here, truly. It's something I've wanted to create. And as you said, like, we've both turned away so many different opportunities to partner, and I have partnered in the past and it didn't work out. And, and so the hesitation on my side was really great. And I knew that I didn't want to, could I do it myself? 100%. But would it be more impactful with the right person? For sure. And so my phrasing is always, I'm over the moon excited. I think this is going to, for me, create what I've been wanting to find. And that, I think, carries so much more weight when it comes to what it is that we're creating and how we're really stepping into what we know we're meant to do, which is really exciting.
I am like beyond excited for this. I've done tons of individual coaching, a bunch of speaking engagements talking about what I'm about to present, and also done a number of transformational workshops with groups of individuals in which they have said to me, like, you need to do more of this, you need to do more of this. So I know that I've been called to do so much more. And then when I met you at the Outliers Podcast Festival, and I was like, I need to know this person, and I was just drawn to you. And then we've spent an obnoxious amount of time. You would really think that we were like dating and in a honeymoon phase, the amount of time that we've spent together, which really it feels like. And so Phoebe, in her meditation recently, and I have to say this, I resisted this collaboration. I'm not sure if Phoebe did. I was
Totally.
I was like, I don't think this is, no, I think, yeah, great. It sounds good. It feels good. Let me sit with this in meditation. And then I poked her a little bit and I was like, what are you thinking? She's like, oh, let's sit with it. And then we came back and we started talking. Let's sit with it some more. And then I was like, what are your thoughts on this? And she's like, oh, something's coming to me. And I was like, I just keep getting, I'm ready. And then Phoebe took a picture of her mirror in her bathroom, which reads the same. She had like written that on her mirror. And I was like, okay, this is weird. Maybe she just ran in there and wrote it, picture of it. Maybe she went on Google and like, I'm ready, written on a mirror, image search. And then she throws the name at me and I didn't even respond. She got upset. And the name that came to her in meditation was her community and my community. So it was Unbecoming on Purpose. And she said the name to me, and I just kind of stopped in my tracks. And then I carried on with my day and forgot about it. And we were like texting back and forth. She's like, did you read the name that I sent you? And I was like, yes. And then I went back and hearted it. And it was this whole thing. And so we literally spent about 5 hours this last weekend outlining what we want to do. And she had already written a program. I had already written a program. So it wasn't even like we needed to recreate the wheel of the 6-week coaching program that we wanted to release in an effort to really build a meaningful community and to kind of mold like just a supercharged mastermind community on the backside. Like we literally just are taking our thoughts and what we want to do, and we just like zipped them. It was like the two sides of a zipper coming together.
I love that analogy, by the way. I'm like, that's such a good visual. Cause I was going to say, when you said that we were outlining, I'm like, yeah, we both had outlines, and it was like just a natural fusion, right? It's like, oh, okay, well, we just pluck this from here and then yours over here. And then we just put that, well, duh, it's the exact same thing. And I think that's why it felt so natural. And we've both said several times through text and in person and on the phone, just how easy this whole thing has felt, which for me, I'm always going for easy and effortless. And that's exactly what this has felt like on my end, for sure.
Absolutely. And it's felt the same for me, and it's just like coming together. So we're like, oh, whatever, like not even a week into making this decision, and we're launching it. And I call Phoebe on Monday and I was like, we have our first participant. And then I called her this morning and I was like, we have our second participant. And she texted me last night. She's like, we have another one. And it's just like, we're not trying. We haven't even announced it. I mean, we just announced it on her podcast, on the Unbecoming podcast. Now we're announcing it now. We don't have a logo designed yet. We're building everything out as we speak. And it's like, oh, I'm really feeling like, I'm not sure if you are, I'm really feeling the universe saying like, let's go.
I mean, I'm ready. that's been
It's on her mirror.
It's been, I mean, that's been my mantra all year, has been, I've got this and I'm ready. And that keeps coming to me. And so I just remember when you told me that, I was like, stop it. Like it's almost like you would think that I wanted this not to happen, right? That like, it would just be, I have a million other things that I want to be doing and that I should be doing and blah, blah. And this has just like come at a perfect time. And it's all, I love that, the zip together, that like really is a great visual for what it has felt like over here for me, which is exciting. And just, I mean, I can't wait to be a participant in our own program, right? We're like, I can't wait to see where this goes and the people that we attract, because I think you and I attract a similar person because we have similar values and similar missions and purposes in life. And so that attracts the people that I want to be around, because I'm tired of being around, being in all these groups that just don't resonate with me, or the people, it's either the people or the product / program. And so I can't wait to have a program with the right people involved, and that I talk about on my show all the time that I love to fan the flame. That's all I want to do in life, is just fan your flame. And so wherever you're starting from, however we can amplify that and grow, transform, impact, whatever it is for you, is just so important to me. And Mark, I know it's important to you as well.
It's my entire life. And I feel like anyone that listens to the show knows that. So let me ask you this, Phoebe, if an individual were listening to this podcast, or they were listening to the episode that you recorded with me on Unbecoming, or on your podcast, Unbecoming, or they see a Facebook post or an Instagram post or something that we've announced or content that we're dropping, and they're like, oh, wow, I want to break through my limiting beliefs. I want to really find out why I want to chase this purpose. I want to achieve more in life. I want to be surrounded by an epic community of action takers that are breaking through all of the barriers of their mind. But what's that but? Like, what do you think is going to stop somebody from going to unbecomingonpurpose.com and signing up to jump on a call with us? Like, what do you think the but is? What's going to stop them?
I mean, I really think it is these limiting beliefs that, am I good enough, right? I think that's what it all comes down to is, are you good enough? You know, am I good enough? Can I do this? Is this right for me? It all comes down to worthiness issues. And that I know firsthand so well. It is just like it's like background noise in, you know, it's like that in any kind of like jazz club or in a cafe or whatever. It's like the background music. And it's just so, it's time for that music to stop. And I remember having a moment in Costa Rica a couple years ago where I was like, this is probably 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm like, I'm sick of my own BS. And that's all I kept saying. I was like, God, I'm so sick of it. It's exhausting. Right. And so if you just can break free from that and continue, right, it's not a moment where you can let go of, you know, everyone talks about busting through these limiting beliefs and blah, blah. It's like, yeah, those never go away. And I think when you give yourself permission to get through that and to really embrace that they're always going to come up. Well, this is an opportunity to, for once, take a stand for you. And if there's anybody in this world that knows this, it is me, because for so long, I didn't make a stand. I didn't take a stand for who I am and what I'm out to create in the world. And the moment I decided to change my patterns, the way that I was thinking, the way that I was acting, and taking action, taking powerful steps to what it was that I dreamed of, that's when everything changed. And that's when I mean, everything has just fallen in line. And one of my episodes recently, a couple weeks ago, was called "It's So Awesome to Be Us Right Now," because that is something I've been saying to myself. It's so awesome to be me right now. And if that sounds a little self-absorbed, and normally I don't say that out loud, it's just playing in the back of my head. But if you're not in that place, that's awesome, because you're going to work with two people that know what that feels like firsthand. And if there's anybody that can help you get out of that and into a life that you really love and are excited about and excited to wake up and live every day, then you'll know you're in the right place if you're resonating with this interview and this episode.
That's some heat right there. She's bringing those flames. So that was just really, I mean, I'm ready. I just booked a call with ourselves from listening to that. So if you're listening to this, or you've been listening to the podcast, and you are seeking an opportunity to really transform your life, and your life may be amazing, but you just want to turn it up a little bit, go to unbecomingonpurpose.com and jump on a call with us. We would love to talk to you and see if you are a fit for our Unbecoming on Purpose community that we're about to unleash. I love the word unleash. Mm-hmm. It's like, I am Sparta. Front kick, right? My audience gets it. I say it all the time. And they also know that I wanted to name my son, who's about to come into the world, Spartacus. So they're very, very, very aware. I know. Thank God I didn't, right? Thank God my wife has some sanity.
I love her.
Lunatic in the relationship. So Phoebe, where can individuals hear more of your work?
So obviously I'd love to shameless plug, Unbecoming on Purpose. Come have a chat with us. If you would love to just learn, if you're involved in this conversation, you're like, well, maybe I want to learn a little bit more about her and what she does. I am all over Instagram. That's probably my number one. I love Instagram, and that's just at Phoebe Mroczek. I'm sure you will have that spelled out somewhere, so you don't have to, guess, because you will never guess how to spell it. And then just my podcast, which is unbecomingpodcast.com. And that's my home, my baby. That's where I put out, I think, the most real version of myself every week, every Tuesday. And I would love to welcome you into my community. And obviously you've got a great leader here. So that doesn't take away from his community at all, but it just reinforces what we're out to create, which is meaningful connections.
Yeah. And I'm going to do it. I was recently on a podcast, and the individual interviewed me, and I went back onto iTunes, and the guest that he was interviewing, he didn't even drop their location in his show notes. So there was no place for his own audience to go find the individuals in which he was bringing on his show. So scarcity mindset is a mother. So yes, Phoebe, I have an epic human being who writes my show notes, who will plug all of your work. So go over and subscribe to Unbecoming podcast. It's one of 4 podcasts I'm subscribed to. I'm very, as my audience knows, I'm very opinionated when it comes to content that's being produced out in the world. And I'm very, very selective. I only listen to and or consume authentic content. And so if I smell poo-poo, I will not follow you. So I like that. That might be, I might have to do a little meme off that. If I smell poo-poo, I will not follow you. Might be the best thing.
We're not going to include that in our program.
Yeah, that might honestly be the best thing I've shared. So, Phoebe, thank you so much for coming on Purpose Chasers podcast. I am beyond excited. I have a feeling, for those of you that are listening, do me a favor, send me an email, mark@markcrandall.net, and let me know what you think of this episode. And also let me know how often you would like to see Phoebe as a guest on the Purpose Chasers podcast. And I want to share this with the audience. It's really been coming to me. So interviewing people is not, it doesn't really feel authentic to me. And so I've been creating content that I want to start sharing with my audience, with you, with y'all. That's the Texas version of me, with y'all on this show. And I also am going to start bringing individuals on the show to not be interviewed, but to engage in a conversation, back and forth dialogue surrounding a topic. So also, I would love to hear from you. You can also find me on Instagram, which is like my slowest crawl social media ever. Like getting followers on there is, I don't get it. But it's at Purpose Chasers. You can find me. Send me a direct message. Send me an email. Send me something. Send me some topics that you would like to see covered, some individuals that you might like to see. Have those conversations with me. Maybe it's even you. Send me something, anything, please. I'm lonely. No, I'm just kidding. Send me mail, DM me, and let me know. If you have a topic you'd like to present, you'd like to talk about, send me a little proposal in an email. Maybe I'll get you on here. I want to change up the show a little bit. I am going to continue to bring guests on to interview them. I am going to continue to do Take Action Tuesday, but I want to have more dialogue. I want to have more conversations and not just interviews, and talk about topics that are meaningful to me and, most importantly, meaningful to you. Phoebe, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so grateful to know you. I am like to the moon, as you say. I'm super excited about the Unbecoming on Purpose coaching program that we are launching. And it's just very clear that we're supposed to be doing it, even though I really feel like both of us fought it.
Totally. Well, thank you for having me. It is an honor to be on your show. And if you're listening to this, I know I don't have to already say it, but Mark is you're just the real deal. And since our probably, I would say second conversation, because our first one was very short, but since our second conversation, I was like, this guy has got something special. And so I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but if you're listening, keep listening. We need more people to support people that are being real and that are exactly who they are offline and online. And so if you can believe me for a minute, because I'm a very honest person. Mark, you're just, the real deal. That's all I can really say. And I'm honored to be your friend, honored to be on this show, and I'm just so grateful for you having me on here. And I'm looking forward to either coming back or just being a celebratory member of your community and also a partner in Unbecoming on Purpose.
Yeah, I think we have a new podcast coming. I'm not announcing it, but I'm just going to throw it out there. I think Unbecoming on Purpose is about to be a podcast. So with that being said, Phoebe, final question I ask all of my guests. If you could leave one thing with the world, what is it?
To find out who you are and share that with complete honesty and transparency, and just be okay with being you. Figure out what that looks like and just live into that every day. And the other thing is just be kind to other people, be kind to yourself, and just share as much love as you can, because what you give, you get back tenfold.
Phoebe, one of a select handful of guests that shared two things when asked to share one. Purpose Chasers family, I'm so grateful to have you, have me in your ears and have your support. Get out there and live life like it's your last, because it very well could be. Chase your purpose with intention. I'll talk to you soon.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Purpose Chasers podcast. If you're ready to take action, don't wait. Head over to thepurposechasers.com to access notes, resources, and a host of other tools to keep you moving forward. And if you want to supercharge your digital presence, visit scaletosaleconsulting.com to partner up with my team and amplify your impact. Let's turn your purpose into your biggest asset. Until next time, keep chasing, keep creating. Your purpose awaits.